So this will be the last year I'm growing tomatoes in bags in here. The bags are getting kind of worn out, and I can quadruple my production by going into beds.
Okay.
So I just wanted to get the mileage out of it and build the market. You know, with living soil, you get really a lot of flavor, and flavor connotes high nutritive value. So the nutritive density in these foods that come out of living soil, it just makes it, they last longer on the shelf, they taste better. I think it will eventually kind of replace organic, so to speak. So these are 45-gallon containers, and what's going to happen in here is, you know, I'm kind of letting them go up, and I'm shaping them, and then I'll let them go ahead and let a sucker come off, and by the time we get to the top, there'll be 3 dominant tops, and then we'll tie strings between here and the rafters, and they'll go up. So we'll be picking by the end of the season, like in October, from a ladder up there. There'll be garlands of tomatoes still hanging. But this side of the room here is heirlooms. This side of the room is F1 hybrids. So, you know, the ones that you've, you know, maybe heard of or read. That I've found some that are just really healthy and aggressive. And this is also, it's kind of like food is art out here for me. And it's also psychologically a good thing for me at the end of the day, because I might turn on the fans and get some air movement, bring some music in here, and walk around and just detail like somebody might do with their African violets or orchids. Yeah, it really feels good to me to kind of communicate with the plants. The biggest predator that I have in here is the lacewing. I don't know if you know that insect or not, but she got in here at one time, and this is safe haven. She doesn't have any predator pressure, and she takes care of the majority of the aphid situation, because I mean, you don't see bugs really, do you? Yeah. This is a real exotic. It almost looks tropical. Almost looks like a potato. This is a black brandy wine. This whole from here down to the end, and that's what I like about being part of this organic farmer thing in Northwest Arkansas. Where, like, if you go up to Iowa and you go into the local cafe in the morning, and all the farmers are in there, and they're all wearing overalls and wearing John Deere hats, and they all drive the same tractors, do the same thing, use the same products, so they can go, how's that, you know, working for you? You get us together, no two of us are doing it the same way. That's why it's really important that we all get together to hear all these things, you know, that everybody's doing, because we all have to be creative. We're hardscrabble. You know, we're subsistence kind of farming. You know, you got to fix things. You got to figure things out. You have to, you know, and in doing so, that's how I got into this natural fertility. But when I first started gardening, there really wasn't much out there as far as like what you could read. The Rodale people, J.I. Rodale and Robert, they were producing a magazine, but other than that, there was not a lot of material. So we would go back to like Amish and farming that happened with rotational farming. We had to kind of figure out, what does organic farming, what's it going to look like? You know, and a lot of it was wildcrafting and subsistence stuff. So I was not interested in traditional ways of doing things. You know, going to the garden center and getting the chemicals and putting them on my garden. You know, back from the get-go, I knew that I didn't want to eat that. But the factor that's never really figured out in there is your soils. Your soil transmutates. You know, like the soil can make phosphorus out of nitrogen, or potassium out of nitrogen, or everything moves to the needs of the plant. So, you know, we're just getting a grip on understanding the mycelia and the fungal play into all that communication that's going on underground. But I never really followed that. I need X number of pounds of blood meal, or, you know what I mean? No, I never did much of that. I would always use just a minimum of it, but a maximum of organic matter and diversity, as much diversity as possible. So you don't want to leave your soil without something breaking down over the top of it. You don't want to like open it so it's just dirt. It'll dehydrate and kill everything on the surface. You always want to give it a blanket of organic matter, You see the way the plant is setting, It's not setting like this. It's not doing anything weird. It's really set up for maximum solar panel, because in here only 70% of the available light that's available outside is available here. So these leaves are always just like, and like a sunflower, you can come in here in the morning and everything's got a little tilt. And then by the end of the day, everything's got a little bit of tilt. And it's going for, maximum. That the leaves are really healthy. This time of the year where we're having nights over 50, that's why things are growing just like so crazy. Instead of just picking it up in the day, we're picking it up 24 now. This year I've got the landscape cloth down. Last year I didn't. I just don't have the time to fight weeds. So this works out pretty good. The weeds will eventually grow where it's gravel, but I can run the mower and weed eat. It's kind of like lawn, eventually in here. Yeah, well, a lot of farms now plant something intentionally, in there. What's going on underground, it's all kind of communicating. Yeah. And the idea of like putting landscape cloth over it or something like that, no, there's too much going on underground. So having something living in between is fine. You worry about habitat, but if you keep it mowed and down, you're not going to have an insect habitat. But the string is really cool because, you just put the strings up every 18 inches and then you use these little clips. See those? You clip the string into the clip and then the clip goes around the plant, and that's there. The plant will get up here, we'll clip it again. The plant will come up here, we'll clip it again. We'll clip it again, all the way to give it support. And this string will hold, at any one time I could have 10 pounds of fruit hanging off of this thing, I've always felt that I would rather buy your tomato and you said, look, I had to spray blah, blah, blah onto it, than I would an organic one from California from a mega farm that was picked 2 weeks ago. It doesn't have the prana, it doesn't have the life force. The life force comes from the freshness, of it here. So it's up to us to try to figure out the mechanisms of distribution to get this stuff picked on your plate, however that looks like. And that's what we're trying to figure out here. Yeah. What does that look like? My social life is communicating with plants, for better or for worse. Sure. They don't argue back. And they don't have a political view that's different than mine. It's perfect. I added azomite in the beginning, and that comes from a mine in Utah, 60 minerals, and there's 90 known minerals on the planet, all found in kelp, because all the known minerals are in the ocean. But on the hard land, I always thought that 60 was probably max with azomite. And no, this stuff I just got came from a volcano remnants in Colombia, and it has 70 microminerals in it. So they got dusted with that. That came to me just the other day. My legacy, so to speak, what I'm leaving behind when I go, is CBD, because I have a lot of the raw distillate product. CBD distillate and dirt. That's my legacy. I'm okay with that. There are people that say whenever I part with this place, they will buy the dirt. They will come for the dirt. Well, I'll tell you an interesting tomato story. This kind of goes along with what you were saying about the name on the menu or whatever. I'm at a dinner party for a friend's birthday, and I'm meeting a young man that's sitting right next to me, and we're doing that casual exchange of who are you, what do you do, that dance. Yeah. And we get to the point that I'm a farmer and what I grow, and he asked me if I knew Andy Moff, the guy that had the pizza truck down on Church Street. I said, yeah, he's a customer. He goes, those are your tomatoes? I'm like, yeah, those are my tomatoes. No way. He goes, I've never eaten a tomato like that. Made my day. Well, and when you work with chefs, they're like sommeliers, and in the food industry, they can take a tomato and just, I don't know what happens to them, but they can smell things in a tomato that I certainly can't. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what I want. I like working with chefs and people that appreciate it. I'm not trying to push something and I don't like the energy of push, arm twist, responsibility, all that. And I really like to work with chefs that understand whenever you have it available, we want it. Not like, we'd like to sign you up for this, and this, because there's too many variables. I want to have it be, okay, I got this stuff. You want to take it? Heck yes.
Yeah.
So what the blue things are is, you can buy those plastic 55-gallon drums, and I cut off the top and the bottom, and a 55-gallon drum is 3 feet. So I cut 3 basically rings, right, with no top or bottom, and because I got Bermuda out here. And so when I made the hole, I slid those down in. Each one's 12 inches, and you're only seeing about the top 3 or 4 to keep the Bermuda from getting into my grow hole. And then the same thing with the cloth. The cloth just helps, suppress the weeds. But, I mean, this soil, it's just everything you want in soil. It's not packed, it's full of roots, full of life. So what we're doing right now is just as these things are growing along, see, look at that thing's already wrapped around this weed. You see that? That little tendril? It's like wanting to hold on. So all of these get aimed up and down this avenue, and when it comes time to harvest, all my melons are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10. They're right up on that. So whatever grows out into here, I keep throwing it back until there's no more room for it, and then I just mow all the side shoots that come off. So this is a Asian way of growing melons.
Wow.
Yeah. This is, how many holes do I have? I got 165 holes, 3 plants in each hole. I think in teaching, the best place for me would be getting raw people that are just like, their fingernails are clean. And it's just kind of like, okay, this is kind of gardening, because this isn't a farm, this is a market garden. I'm just gardening on a little bit larger scale than you would in your backyard, And trying to make it as functional as possible. I need some kind of something I can ride. It could even be a lawnmower pulling a wagon, because at this point I pick in a wheelbarrow and wheelbarrow it out, and then those containers that you see over there, they're basically recycled, those big totes, right? They cost $60. I can cut them in half. The bottom half already has the plastic pallet on it. The top half I flip over and put it on a wooden pallet. Now I have 2 containers that I can put in about 20 watermelons in. So I'm about to make 4 of them with wheels on it for ONF, because they've got spatial things. I've got to be able to roll it off the back of my trailer and into their back door, and then they can roll it out their front door. And, we're having to try to figure all that out right now. As you know from that time that I saw you, I grow mushrooms.
Yeah.
Okay, so part of the mushroom experience is, growing in a sterilized substrate.
Yeah.
So these have been sterilized in here. You can feel these just came out. And this, I mix up in here and bag up to a specific weight, and then they go in here to get sterilized. So about a couple hours at about a 15 psi, will kill off any pathogen. I'm about to soak some milo or sorghum grain. In the mushroom world, you put your mycelia into a sterilized grain to fast start it. It explodes in there, then you add the grain to that substrate for it to finish. But you cut a whole lot of time down by giving it something it really wants to eat. I keep the culture in here, so can you see it? The marbles are in there to keep that blob loose. Otherwise you grow kombucha. But that's the live mycelia in there. I take it out of there with a syringe and put it into a bag of sterilized grain to start it off. Anytime we transfer that material, it happens in a lab. So this room here, these two, I won't turn them on, they're kind of noisy, are both HEPA filters, so I'm getting 99.5-ish clean air. So I'm wearing a mask, I'm wearing gloves, and all the transfers go on right in front of it. I hold it right out here in front of me like this. I'm never like over it. So anytime I'm transferring this life form, because it's really fragile, you know, so it all has to be done. These are waiting to get, this afternoon after you guys leave, I'll be putting, you know, grain that's totally cultured with mycelium into there and getting them started. This is the lab.
Nice.
So the transfers happen in there, then they go into this room. This room runs, I don't have any heat on in here. You see the thermometer when you come in, it generates its own heat. This is where you'll find me hanging out in the winter. You know, I'll bring my coffee and sit in here because the mycelia growing generates its own heat. Come on in. So basically, I take a syringe with the fluid that I showed you and put it in the bag, and here it is just taking off. It's just starting to develop. Looks like a mold or something when it's first starting. Gets a little further, gets a little further until it gets completely hard packed and white. It has totally eaten up every square inch of that grain. I take it from there, break that bag in half, and I make 2 of these bags. So every time that I use one syringe, it goes through multiplying. So now I've got 2 of these. Each one of these makes 4 of the substrate. So I get 8 bags from one syringe, moving it along the way that way. And these are all just different varieties at different stages of development. And then these are all at different, you know, points of life. And I come in here about once a week and get the most advanced ones that have also filled the bag up, and they're really a tight, like feel how tight it is. It feels like a Nerf football or something, right?
Yeah.
So when it gets to about that point, actually what it does is it wants to make a mushroom at this point, but these filters don't allow air in, they only allow gases out. So it gets to a point where it starts wanting to make a mushroom. It's called primordia, but there's no oxygen, so it grows like a coral. You know, that's kind of what it looks like. So what I do is I come in, cut the bag open, wrap it really tight, flip it upside down, and I'll make cuts. Here, I'll basically tell it where it's going to come out, but it tells me, you know, that's a spot right there. That's a spot right there. This really advanced. Yeah, that's where I'll make my cuts. I like to constantly bring in a new one, which I do, just to see. And but you know, there's 4 that I grow. I grow all oysters. I grow the white. I grow Black Pearl King. I grew Blue Brat and King Blue. The restaurants and the chefs love the blue mushrooms. I waited to harvest today, so you could see. So they're going from 79 down to 66 degrees. This is King Blue. Is that not the most outrageous thing you've ever seen? She's a beauty. This is perfect. I'll be harvesting this right after you leave.
And what is her taste? What does she taste like?
This one?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'll send you home with some, okay? This makes mist over here, so it keeps the humidity at about 94%. So I'm running 94% at 66 degrees. The idea is you're trying to replicate the Olympic Peninsula of Washington. That is the ultimate mushroom growing place on the planet. And so we're basically mimicking that in this. This is what's called pinning. So when I bring them in here, it's the cold air kicks them into this. So I've made 3 cuts across here. This is still has that original thing, but I see see this? It's about to happen. And this one, only doing it over here, not over here. I don't know the rhyme or reason with that. I don't care. I'm always looking for like, where do you want to come out and why?
Okay.
Look at this crazy thing. It didn't come out like right side up. Look at it. Isn't that nuts? They kind of have a mind of their own how they want to do it. Sometimes I'll tell it where I think it wants to go, like here, but look at this. So I'm always trying to read where in the bag to make the cut. This is developing right along here. See, this came out here, but yeah, it's about to. But it's a great place to be in the summer because it's so dang hot outside, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great place to be in the winter because it's so cold outside. This is the coast of northern USA, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.